Round one. Fight.
Heroes never die.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the Citadel.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
Power, sex, power. They both come down to one thing.
Hungry gamers.
Hello, and welcome, boys and girls, to the 284th episode of the Hungry Gamers podcast. We're powered by 8bit.net and those sexy legends with an even sexier new website over at Audio Technica. I'm your extremely humble and extremely ill host today, Brendan White. You can find me just about everywhere at Brendan 8bit. And joining me today, filling in for my usual female-centric podcast Ride or Die, who we are wishing a very speedy recovery as well. But I've brought on the new resident Xbox superfan. You can find him on them socials at Jono himself. We're obviously talking about none other than Australia's Jono Pech. Jono, welcome back to THG. How you doing, my friend?
Let's not get too crazy with the Xbox praise. It's early days.
It's early days.
But I'm on the team now, you know.
That's it. Yeah, part of Team Green. Maybe we could start things off there straight away. So yeah, you've recently taken ownership of a fantastic black Xbox Series X console. What's your initial thoughts as someone that hasn't really played around in this ecosystem before? What's your early returns?
I guess the obvious, Game Pass is really great, and that's not new to anyone who listens to this podcast. It's pretty good that you can just buy a new console, pay the $1 for that first month, and just download 20 or 30 games off the bat and not have to spend any more money, especially when the entry point is what it is. So that's really great, I think. And, you know, you could say the same thing about PlayStation with the PlayStation Collection, but the chances are, if you're going from a PS4 to a PS5, you've likely played 90 or 80% of those titles already. So yeah, it's just a whole lot of great indies, and for me, a lot of Xbox exclusives to catch up on because it's my very first Xbox machine.
Yeah, you've certainly got yourself quite the to-do list, you could say. Like, you've sort of shared some of the internal memos that you've been sort of jotting down over the years about sort of first port of call and games to target and work through. And it looks like you're going to be needing to take up all your annual leave to try and chew through that list. But yeah, you're certainly not going to be running around trying to work out what to play next, that's for sure, because there is many a title there for you to sink your teeth into.
Yeah, and it's kind of good timing in a way because there's not much coming out on PlayStation at the moment, and Xbox has delayed all of its big things, so it's probably a good time to jump in and address the backlog that's suddenly very, very long with so many years to catch up on.
100%. So maybe, like, as far as things that I've been playing, I haven't really been doing a ton. I had sort of my sales conference and a few other things with work taken me out of the gaming sphere this week, so I dabbled a little bit more in Fortnite, but you know, no more need to talk about that fantastic no-build battle royale extravaganza. But I might just throw it across to you, JP, and maybe you can share what you've been playing, because yeah, this is the first toe dip into that Xbox world. And where did you start?
Sure, so let's have a look. I've got this on the list. So I started with Psychonauts 2 because that was one of the Game of the Year contenders last year that I didn't get around to, and I kind of knew that I was going to get an Xbox eventually, so I thought I'll just hang out until then and give it a crack. So I've just dipped into that for kind of the first day that I had the Xbox, and then I realized that, you know, there are games that come off Game Pass, so I wanted to make sure I got to Yes Your Grace before that finishes at the end of this month, so in 10 days. I finished that last night. Had a great time with that little kingdom management sim. Love the pixel art, love the humor in that one, and I think you've touched on that, or have you finished that one?
Yeah, I did my playthrough on it, and it's tough to be a good fair king to everybody, and I guess that's what comes to being in positions of power. How did your dictatorship end? Was it good, or were you well received by the townsfolk?
My monarchy. Yeah, I was. We had a happy ending in my game. We you know, I guess you could say happy ending, but there's a lot of tragedy along the way, isn't there? It's a lot more to that game than I kind of expected as far as the level of drama that comes out of a simple storyline as you have these multiple build-ups to several battles and events that happen throughout. So yeah, it was a lot more to it than I expected in that regard. So credit to the writing team at that studio, whose name eludes me at the moment. And it's just as someone who's writing for some indie games in development and Trigger Witch that came out last year, I appreciate seeing something that's built around a story and dialogue and you know, specifically just text-based pixel art graphics and that kind of thing. It's very cool. I could see myself doing something like that one day if I was able to get onto the right team. So it's interesting to view it from that lens and just appreciate. You know, I've complained in the past about some of these like management sims, whether it's like Stardew Valley or Spiritfarer, not quite doing it for me. But this one, just the hook of the daily, you know, talk to all the peasants, help them out, go look around the kingdom a little bit in the castle, and send your generals and whatnot out to explore, try and just shoot through to the next day and the next day. And it's always like, oh, I'll just do one more day. Oh, that you know, the hunter's coming back. I'll see what he has to say. Oh, that person I helped, I wonder if they're happy. So it just kept me going a lot longer than I expected. So it didn't take me long to get through it at all.
It's such a simple yet addictive loop, that game, like what you just touched on. There's not a ton to the mechanics, but the story and the ripple effects of your decisions or lack thereof in certain regards just really adds to a really great, fun, simple, yet surprisingly emotional from an investment standpoint game, which I really enjoyed. Yes, Your Grace, and yeah, it's rolling out off Game Pass at the end of this month. Obviously, you can buy the game in full once it's off there if you choose, but if you're a Game Pass user, by the time this episode comes out, you might have
a week,
6-ish days or so before it goes out of the rotation. So you still got time to experience it and see if you can be a fair and just ruler or a bit of a tyrant.
Indeed. And the other one I started just last night was Infernax, which is a really cool, gruesome Castlevania clone, I guess you could call it. I've only just kind of touched on it, jumped into it, killed a few different enemies before I had to go to bed. But that's a really cool looking indie that's on Game Pass as well, if you want to check it out.
Nice. It looks clean. It's only been out for about 12 months or so, but looks good, obviously on Steam and things as well. Really cool throwback as far as those graphics. I haven't played it yet. I've seen it pop up on the listings a few times. Is that out of the rotation by the end of this month as well, or you just sort of
that's just
caught on the game?
That's
art?
just one that hooked me from the look of it. I love that kind of retro visual, I guess, of the you know, NES to Super NES era, and it's a lot more floaty than the Castlevania games as far as like the jump ability. So it doesn't feel as ground, like, you know, literally grounded as those games. And so far I'm digging it, and the enemy designs are really like gruesome and over the top. So it's there's a kind of a warning at the start that it's not for kids, despite the, you know, throwback pixel art appeal that it might have.
It's super metal and super nightmare fuel-y. Like I'm just looking at some of the graphics just from sort of the Google search, and it is a lot.
Yeah,
it is awesome, and I'm gonna have to give it a spin.
It's like a Sam Raimi Castlevania or something.
Yeah, there's like a demonic hell beast with sort of the goat head, and then just some big large breasts, and then the hoof arms or hoof feet. I don't know what it becomes, if it's hands or feet, when it becomes sort of a hybrid like that. But yeah, it looks interesting. So that'll be on my watch list. But circling back to Psychonauts 2, what do you think of this Double Fine experience? You been enjoying it?
Yeah, it's cool. I haven't gone deep enough to really see, like, yes, I can tell why everyone was obsessed with this, but I am enjoying it. I'm probably, you know, you do the opening kind of dream world, and then you're back to the school, and I'm kind of in the second area at the moment. So getting there, and just, I guess it's not really a spoiler, but just opened up the path to do the casino mission. So that will be the third mission, I think. So yeah, I'm enjoying. I can see like the humor's definitely there, and it's good fun, and I like that it kind of feels like you're playing a PS3, PS2 game as far as that like platformer throwback goes. But and like some of the graphics are deliberately like really simple and like Saturday morning Nickelodeon cartoony kind of thing. But then because it's obviously developed for modern consoles, they've done things like, you know, made the character models' eyes have like reflections off them, and like just little bits where like, okay, we're going to throw in some ray tracing here amongst the very basic polygonal almost models.
It's a really good contrast, and I'm excited to get your full feedback on it once you roll credits.
Sure.
And then are you going to be then jumping across to things like Halo and Gears of War and those big tentpole Xbox exclusives? Is that the plan?
Yeah, that's the plan. I was talking to my friend Gab today, who I said, I might just jump straight into Halo 3 because I don't want to necessarily go back all the way to the start. And he's like, no, you have to go back to the start. So, and I know that they've done like some up-resing, some clever up-resing on the... on
the Master Chief Collection.
Yeah, and just like they have this, like Xbox has come up with this way to like create a like virtual HDR or whatever you call it, where it adds like extra frames and extra fidelity that's not actually in the original version of the game, just through, or maybe it's extra frame. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it is, but that makes me think maybe the older games will hold up better, but I don't know. It's more about like the time commitment. Like, I don't know how long each of those games is. Do I want to spend 100 hours on Halo? Maybe I do. Yeah,
like there's going to be an investment if you're going to work through it from 1 through to sort of infinite. Yeah. That's a lot of time on your plate that you got to try and find to like. And it's a cool story and it's fun and the combat's great and you can sort of see some of the pioneering elements that are around in a lot of shooters today from the original. Yeah. But I don't know. To be honest, like I'm not one to go back and replay legacy titles and things often or if ever. So I'm not probably the best person to ask or say, do you think I should go back? I'd probably say, maybe just watch like a Halo story update to now and then jump into Infinite or 3 or something like that. Yeah. Because, it's an investment.
I'll look at the how long to beat estimates and see if I can be bothered, maybe. And then, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, I guess, going back. If I've become obsessed with Halo from playing Halo 3 and Infinite or whatever, I can always go back and play the first ones.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not me being dismissive or disrespectful to those games. I'm just very mindful of people's time or lack thereof of these days. So, if there's a way to maximize that time and still get a complete with an asterisk experience of Halo, then I'd say go that way. And but there's so much to play and do. Just maybe hold out on touching Gears just yet, because obviously there's the rumors that can be the big end of year release for Xbox with Starfield and things like that getting pushed to 2023, where they're going to say that there's going to be a remaster of 1 and 2 coming out holiday season. So maybe just hold fire until then on that one potentially. But and then when you do, let me know, because maybe I can roll through co-op campaign with you on those.
That sounds fun, yeah. And then Fable would be the other series that I've been curious about over the years, just to dig into that one. And aside from that, like that's one of the reasons it's taken me this long. Like I haven't felt like there's that many must-play exclusives for the type of game that I'm into, which is the more story-driven experience. So once I've caught up on those, it'll be mostly just the old exclusive machine and the Game Pass machine for me. So definitely not leaving the PS5 behind. The Switch is at someone else's house at the moment. I don't even know. It's like where are your kids? I'm sure it's fine. But it's good to have multiple consoles for the first time in my life. I
Yeah,
figured it
well,
was time.
welcome. We're happy to have you here. And as you said, like all these consoles, they can coexist and work happily side by side. And yeah, there's strengths and weaknesses and franchises that are beloved locked to one and not to the other, and vice versa. So yeah, if you can afford it and also find them, yeah, having both or having all is never a bad thing. But yeah, just don't go breaking the bank or sacrificing other things you need to make it happen. But yeah, 2023 is going to be the year of what could have been as far as all these delays and postponements of releases. Like there's still some strong rumor mills of things that'll be coming at the back end of this year, which is exciting. But I guess we haven't been playing a ton of new things that are out in the rotation at the moment, but we've been watching a few things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to deep dive too heavily as far as what I've been watching. It's been, to no surprise,
Anime.
I've been consuming a bit more anime as I can. I haven't had time to sort of sink my teeth into anything new that's unanime related at the moment, but I've been working through a new drop from this year called Skeleton Knight in Another World, which is super fun, and another one that I've just finished watching the first season of is called Sabakui Bisco, which is sort of a post-apocalyptic show or post-apocalyptic anime where there's sort of this global infection or disease going around called rust, and it sort of embodies what rust does to sort of metal to sort of the human flesh, where your internal sort of rust away and cease working and you ultimately die. So there's people, like very select people, trying to find a cure for it to save the human race, and obviously there's conflict and various warring parties that sort of play into that sort of Mad Max-esque sort of vibe. It's actually really cool, and the tone's super fun and quirky, a little bit violent, and it's got some giant sort of kaiju creatures throughout it as well. So it's this cool mix of a lot of things I like, and that was really fun. Outside of that, I watched the season finale last night of Halo, connecting back to the game. And you know what? The show, overall, I think it was pretty good. It wasn't without a few warts. Not warthogs, just warts in general. There was some warthogs too, but overall, I liked what they did with it. I enjoyed my time. The 9 episodes, like just a good enough amount to get me hyped, and the way that the ending of the season finale sort of played out, it's certainly leading to more and a bigger season 2, and there were some awesome battles. There was one battle at the back end of this 9th episode, which was just about the best thing they've done in the entire show. It was linking and nodding to the game, and it's just super frenetic combat and violent and visceral and brutal, and it's super slick when it leans into the Spartan way as opposed to some of the other ancillary nothing human characters they tried to make us care about, which I still don't. It really, really executes on the brief, but it's worth a look on Paramount Plus if you can get it. For those people on Game Pass, there is actually part of the perks where you get, I think it's a free 30-day trial of Paramount Plus included in your Game Pass if you check your perks or your benefits on there. So you'll be able to watch now this whole season in full if you wanted to.
Cool. That is interesting. It seems like most people are criticizing this show more than praising it. Do you find that you're one of the few voices of positivity around Halo, or is there a bit more?
There's certainly some more out there. Like there's a few other content creators. Like I saw Skill Up was talking about it pretty highly on his socials. Where it's not a perfect show. It's not in the running for any Oscars as far as the writing and the storytelling goes, but it's just for a big science fiction-y soap opera. Like it nails that brief. Like you're not going in there to sort of have your heart ripped out due to emotional performances and the stakes being raised. Like, I guess the stakes are high, the universe is at stake here. The Covenant's going to kill all humans across the galaxy and so on and so forth. But it's just fun. Like if you can sort of turn your thinking hat off a little bit and try and not get too granular as far as, no, this is how the games do it. This is the right way. This is the wrong way. Like just enjoy it for just good cinematic hoorah, then I think you'll have a good time. Like it's good science fiction, and it's all the good things about science fiction that I enjoy as well. The big brashness and the aliens and the violence and the machismo and the craziness and the corniness and all that kind of stuff. Like it's like when I mentioned in the first few episodes when I was talking about it, it's got some sort of nods and linkages to like how Starship Troopers plays out on screen, and that's why I enjoyed this. And it's perfectly fine.
Sounds a bit like the Uncharted movie as far as the differences, and if you can just accept that it's different, then you'll have a good time, and if you can't accept that, then you won't like it. Yeah.
Exactly. But I see you've been skimming through some things as well. Have you got some nice high level thoughts on what do we got here? Five things you've referenced there.
I've been sick this week, so I've had a lot of time to watch TV. So Handmaid's Tale is something I've binged through like all 4 seasons over the past like 3 weeks, and
great show.
really liked it after not being sure that it was going to be for me. Starts very heavy. Doesn't really get any less heavy, but
no,
it does have what I would call like the payoff that you need from something that heavy, in a similar way to like The Last of Us 2. Like as a game, like it's just one blow after another, and you kind of think back like, why was that so enjoyable? And it's because there's these little moments where it's like, relief, or like success at the goal, or whatever it might be, like these little victories that make it feel like it was not worth it to go through all that suffering, but at least there's a bit of humanity in there. So it's got that same kind of thing that I enjoy there, and the storytelling and the world that they've created there, you know, based on the novel.
Phenomenal.
But it's just great. Like, it's just so deep and realized, I guess, with the alternate history. So love that. Looking forward to the next season, even though it's kind of getting harder and harder to tell where they're going to go with it because of how it's played out, but I'm sure they'll come up with something.
Yeah, the characters are so real in that show, and like June, who's the lead, she's phenomenal. But there's times where like it's great that she's flawed, and there's times when you're like, "What are you doing, you idiot?" Like, and you start to sort of dislike her in certain ways in the person she's become. But then you also realize the person she's become is due to all this trauma and hardship she's had to encounter for those previous seasons. It's some of the best storytelling that I've seen on the small screen in a long time. And yeah, I can't wait to see what they do in season 5, but I just know that I feel sort of not gross, but I feel very fragile after watching these episodes, because it's like, yeah, you don't get many victories to cheer for, and a lot of the time these episodes end on such a bleak note that you just sort of like need to go and watch something joyful and happy straight away, because you're just like, oh my god, I'm so sad and beaten up right now emotionally from this show.
Yeah, I don't know what that says about me, that I was able to just binge like 4 seasons of it and couldn't get enough of it. But anyway,
a bit more stoic than me.
Other than that, just like keeping up with the weekly drops of Better Call Saul, which is fantastic as always. Barry on Binge is, or HBO in the States, is in its 3rd season and also fantastic as always. Can't really say enough great things about Barry and Better Call Saul. Atlanta, I think you've been watching that, and I'm catching up. I've only got probably 1 or 2 episodes to go, I think. Have you finished that? I think the last episode just came out recently.
I haven't watched the last yet, but like same as you, I've been really enjoying it. It's just a nice palate cleanser. The storytelling's, you know, it's very different to a lot of the other stuff we're watching, I guess, in our respective rotations, but it's nice and real. The acting is fantastic, and just the world that it's built out over these previous, 2.9 seasons has been great, and so I'm keen to see what they get up to for this finale.
Yeah, and it's also like, it's weird as well, because every 2 or 3 episodes they'll just be like, here's a story that has nothing to do with the show or with the characters from the show. It's going to be entirely about race relations in America, and it's going to be somewhat of like a satire or, exploring certain themes that exist in America turned up to 100. And I love that they have the guts to just do that, because you could take those episodes out completely and it could just be a separate show altogether. Like it really has nothing to do with Paperboy and Ern and Darius and Vanessa, but somehow it makes the other episodes it gives them context, I guess, for this world they're creating, where it is a slight alternate world to where we exist.
Totally agree, and I think it's nice to see Donald Glover and I guess the spotlight that he commands and the celebrity and the power he's got, like not being afraid to highlight these types of racial issues and societal based issues that like African Americans are dealing with day in and day out, and having it broadcast on mainstream television this way with globally renowned actors playing these roles and helping magnify these issues is great. Like as you said, like it's a risk, and it doesn't directly sort of fit into that main storyline of Atlanta, but it goes to add additional layers and context to it through those bottle episodes.
Yeah, and the last episode I watched was like within the Europe storyline, but even then I'm still like, is this another alternate universe? Because nothing makes sense here either, so I'm very confused. But you kind of just roll along with it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And having those sort of shorter 20 to 25 minute episodes keeps it punchy and keeps those messages, the varied messaging that they're throwing at you at the forefront of your mind. It doesn't get sort of lost in the minutia, which is good.
And the last thing I'll mention is Russian Doll Season 2. So you might remember pre-pandemic, Natasha Lyonne or Lion, most known from Orange is the New Black, had that series on Netflix. It's kind of the Groundhog Day kind of story of dying and waking up and trying to break the time loop. And it's been, 3 years or whatever it's been because of the pandemic. And the show picks up kind of 3 years after the first season in the same way. So I watched the first couple episodes last night, and it's gone in an interesting direction that I didn't expect. So if you liked the first season, and I wasn't like massively big on it, but I am intrigued by this second one, so it's worth a shot.
It seems like it's a show. I haven't watched a single second of it so far in either of these seasons,
right.
So I'm neutral to it. But I know a lot of people in our social circles has praised it, and then just the broader culture community says it's one of the best new shows of the last several years. So I know I need to give it some time, but. Yeah, the concept was always very interesting to me. I just need to give it a run to see if it hits for me.
Yeah, and it's nothing like, it's never anything groundbreaking when people do a time loop thing. Like there's what was the one with Andy Samberg, like Palm Springs or something.
The summer. It was on Amazon.
Yeah,
fantastic film,
really good.
And I feel bad that I can't remember the.
Was it Palm Springs?
Was it Palm Springs?
Yeah, Palm Springs, 2020.
Okay.
So,
fantastic movie. They nailed it. They executed that time loop
definitely, yeah.
Concept really, really well.
Yeah. And then, Deathloop, many other video games that have done it as well. So
Happy Death Day, which is a fantastic horror comedy film, and then they've done Happy Death Day to You, and now I think they're doing a third one, which is bonkers. But yeah, it's a cool concept. And when it's done well, it's a ton of fun.
Them, yeah, but I guess it's more about like the world that they create within that loop that makes it interesting, and the character that is played by Natasha is just like, it's very her. And if you're a fan of Orange is the New Black, you know what she's like as a performer and what she can bring to a role. Just a really quirky uniqueness and charm that's in a New York setting makes it just feel like a fun show to get into.
Nice. Yeah, I'll add it on the list when I eventually watch all the anime in the universe. I'll give Russian Doll a spin. But yeah, quick bit of housekeeping before we jump into the news. Obviously, if you wanted to support us monetarily, you can do so via a monthly subscription over at ko-fi.com/we-are8bits, starting from the low price of $1 per month. That's like 1/3 or even 1/4 of a cup of coffee. So if you can throw that into our bucket, that will go an awful long way, get you exclusive access to perks, giveaways, and a whole lot of other content and goodies. If you want to get some merch-based goodies, you can obviously do so over at shop8bit.net. That's our official merch store. T-shirts, hats, hoodies, and everything else in between on a host of fantastic designs. And if you want to try and go in the running to win yourself an ATH GL3 gaming headset from Audio-Technica, this is one of their brand new gaming headsets that was released in 2022. To simply enter, all you need to do is take a screenshot of you leaving or have potentially already left a rating for The Hungry Gamers or any of the other broader 8-Bit podcasts on Spotify. Grab that screenshot, DM us at weare8bit, or if you want to email us, hello@8bit.net to go in the draw, and we're going to announce that in the next 2 weeks or so. So super simple, super easy. It's literally jump into Spotify. If you aren't already subscribing to us on that platform, please do so. Listen to a bit of our episodes, and then hit that 5-star rating or whatever star rating you deem the show to be worth. We think it's 5, but
stars.
if you've got different thoughts, that's fine. But take that screenshot, shoot it across, and you can win yourself a fantastic gaming headset as well as some other additional 8-Bit swagger. But JP, let's get into this.
This week's news headlines.
And the first bit of news, a little quick hitter, and I think it's great. Sony has listed over 60 accessibility options for God of War Ragnarok, and came on the back of a broader blog statement from PlayStation. I'm just going to read some of the notes in there, and it reads as follows. Not only have we redesigned our UI to allow for more flexibility and readability, but we also have rebuilt controller remapping from the ground up and added more customization to our combat and interaction systems. We have retained all our accessibility features from 2018's God of War and expanded upon them to include more than 60 ways to adjust gameplay to best suit your style and needs. Then it goes on to further read, we are committed to improving accessibility and customization for everyone. We can't wait to tell you details about our other categories of accessibility features like combat/aim assists, puzzle/minigame assists, HUD adjustments, camera tuning, auto pickup, and much more. So you can obviously head over to the Sony website to get the full press release there that they've released on the blog. But in short, God of War Ragnarok is going to be the most accessible God of War title to date. There's still strong rumors. There hasn't been any denial. This is going to be coming out in 2022. So ultimately, this might be the biggest game release of 2022 for a whole host of reasons. I'm hoping it's the case because I'm excited for more Kratos and seeing what's happening in this next-gen world. But JP, this is awesome. You can play the game your way in a whole host of ways, and it's going to allow for a better experience for everybody.
Yeah, like it's something that we saw a pretty big step forward, I thought, with The Last of Us 2, with a lot of accessibility options to not only like the visual, like colorblind, like vision impairment, but also just general gameplay. So, for example, you could make it so you couldn't fall off a cliff, or you can make it so you could, skip puzzles or whatever it might be. Just these little things that made it way easier to find collectibles and just general improvement for people of different abilities, or even just like I found myself using some of those stuff without needing them. I just like, I actually don't like button mashing quick time events, so I will turn on like hold down X or whatever instead of mashing it to open a door or whatever it is. So I appreciate these as someone that doesn't need them, that's just lazy. So I'm sure that people out there who actually can't play games unless they're tweaked are going to be very happy with what they've added to God of War, which was just a couple of years prior to The Last of Us Part 2, but it shows that there's been such a big development in that field since 2018, and kudos to the developers that have been leading the way. And I really think Naughty Dog was one of those that, when I saw the list of accessibility on that game, I was like, okay, I've never seen this before. Maybe there's games that I hadn't played on other consoles that were doing it already, but yeah, definitely appreciated that.
Oh, most definitely. And yeah, Sony's taking a really strong stance in this regard. Like you mentioned, The Last of Us, but we saw it with Ratchet and Clank, we saw it with Miles Morales,
Horizon, yeah.
And then on the other side, we saw a lot of that positivity as far as accessibility with like Forza Horizon 5 that came out a few months down the track as well. So it's great to see, because gaming is for everybody, and if you can make it as accessible and fun and enjoyable and as painless as possible to play, depending on where you are from a gamer, as you said, JP, or if you just want to avoid some of those annoyances and bugbears that you have with certain gaming tropes. The fact that you've got an option to turn it off or adjust it to your choosing is awesome. So, it's going to be great. And I'm hoping that God of War Ragnarok comes out in 2022. Like, that's the strong rumors around the water cooler, and you're seeing all the constant sort of news breakers, your Jeff Grubbs and Schreier and everyone else like that, still heavily implying that's the case. But there's still a lot of radio silence out there. So please, Santa Monica, please come out over this summer news jaunt and just go boom. Drop us a big Sony presser in the next few months, or maybe it comes out at Game Fest. Who knows? But just let us know. So we've got something to look forward to at the end of the year. Something I guess we can look forward to at the end of the year if you wanted to revisit, or maybe you're a first timer. But to coincide with the 7th anniversary of the original release of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, CD Projekt Red has given a small update this past week in regards to the next-gen update, which is going to be dropping on PlayStation 5/Xbox Series S/X. There was some delays constantly, and then there was also CDPR's own in-house studio, because this was originally getting done by Saber Interactive. They've pulled it all back in-house, but we broke news on this a couple of weeks ago now, maybe 3 or 4 episodes ago now, but they've since come out and said this is actually going to be coming out in the Q4 2022 release window. So it's going to be coming out holiday of 2022. This was sort of broadcast on the Twitter sphere. But JP, is this something that's a needle mover for you? Do you have any incentive to go back and jump back into the boots of Geralt and play it on the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X that you now own?
Yes and no. Probably not on the Series X, probably PS5, because
it's a free upgrade on the PS if you already own it on the game from PlayStation 4. So,
but mostly because I assume it's going to come with a new trophy list, which is great. Problem is, I've already played through this game 3 times, and it's a long game, as you know. So the last time was after the first season of The Witcher hit Netflix, and I just felt like playing it again. So I think if I was to play it a 4th time, it would have to be like years down the track. But I'm happy to know that when that actually happens, that I have a PS5 version that's hopefully really slick and upgraded and quick loading and all that stuff. So good on them. And I doubt that there's anyone that's been holding out for this before they play the game for a first time, because it's been so accessible. It's on every platform. It's on Switch. It's on PC.
It's everywhere.
It's
been part of so many cheap deals. And you could have got it for a steal over the years.
It's more like a Skyrim thing, I think, where it's not like anyone's going, oh, Skyrim, I've heard that's pretty good. I'll check that out now that it's coming to PS5. It's more like, like I haven't played that since maybe 2015 when it came out, and I've been looking for an excuse to play it again. It's been 7 years. Sweet. I think that would be more who it's for, like someone maybe more like you. Not that you replay games, but if you haven't, and I really feel like playing it again since I watched the 2 seasons on Netflix, boom, there it is. Or before The Witcher 4 comes out, like leading up to it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's certainly like if I'm starved for things to do come holiday season, and I just want to see, maybe I will boot it up and jump into my save from previous gen and maybe just tidy up a couple of those side quests, because I haven't like completed everything in the game, but like I've completed the mainline story. So maybe I'll just give it a look just to see how it stacks up graphically compared to how it was on the Xbox One and things like that. But it's still cool, and the fact that it's part of a free upgrade if you are owning the game already, that's a nice customer-centric offering there that CDPR are doing, instead of saying, oh, sorry, you got to pony up $20 or whatever to get the complete edition when it comes out in holiday. But no, it's still cool, and will be very interesting to see what kind of concurrent player spikes there's going to be at the end of the year when this game does finally make its way to that next-gen arena. But something that maybe is a bit more palatable and that's something that more people will pick up is we've had 3 more PlayStation 5 console covers announced this past week, and they're available pre-order right now. They're shipping around the middle of June. From the Amazon listings I saw, they're going to be dispatched around June 17th. And the 3 options you can choose between are Nova Pink, Galactic Purple, and Starlight Blue, and they're both available for the disc and digital versions of your PlayStation 5. And they're about $84 AUD via Amazon. So JP, which of those 3, like obviously you're the all black PlayStation 5 custom skin. I've got the decrepit rundown Horizon themed custom skin on mine. But out of those 3, Nova Pink, Galactic Purple, and Starlight Blue, which way would you go if you were, gun to the head and you had to go a certain direction with skinning your PlayStation 5 console?
They're very out there, aren't they? These particular colors. They didn't go for, like, when people sell merch, t-shirts, it's like, despite the temptation, it's got to be a black t-shirt because that's what sells. Like, that's what people actually want, despite the creativity of these quirky other colors. I think I'd have to go with the purple for 8-bit reasons. That's probably the obvious pick, I think. The others are a bit too out there for me, definitely. Like, they would definitely stand out in my living room, especially since, got the black Xbox, got the grey Switch when it's there, and, a bit of greenery around with plants and whatnot, but don't know how the fluorescent pink I guess I should call it Nova Pink and Starlight Blue would hold up in the living room with everything else. But what about you? It's got to be purple, right?
like I'm not going to take the low, like the purple, the Galactic Purple. It's certainly the softer of the 3. Like, it's the less neon-y or vibrant of the 3. But I really like the Starlight Blue. Like, I'm with you. Like I'm trying to disconnect from it being in my lounge room and trying to see if it would actually blend in with the color palette that I've got. But just from an aesthetics point of view, I really like that shade of blue. I think it's it pops, and it's like, I could see myself appreciating that. Will I ever buy that console cover? Probably not. But I like all 3, and they're certainly in your face. Like, it'd become a feature piece of your entertainment suite. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't really know what they're doing with this. Like, you'd think anyone that's been in the PlayStation community for a while would know that people probably want, like, black. They want PlayStation grey, like the original grey. They want maybe like a navy blue rather than these crazy colors. But at the same time, it's a lot of people who Twitch streaming and that kind of thing with their crazy lights, and I don't know. Maybe it's more along the lines of appealing to that kind of crowd.
That's where I was, like, before you jumped into that, that's what I was going to allude to next. I'm like, you think of this in someone's, like, gaming cave or nerd cave or whatever you want to describe it as, where there's RGB out the wazoo. Something like this would fit in nicely with all the crazy lights and the bloody nano leafs and everything else they've got going on around their sort of focal area where they're doing their gaming. This would sit in there really nicely. But yeah, as far as having in a traditional person's lounge room, like myself or yourself, it would stand out like spacey dog balls. But anyway, they're still cool. And $84, I think that's pretty reasonable. Like, I know it's still a chunk of money, but
is that AU? Do
you think that's fair?
AUD?
That's AU. Yeah, $84 Australian. On Amazon, I didn't see what they were charging on EB. I'd assume naturally a bit higher, because Amazon's always good for deals.
Given that it's an authentic PlayStation branded thing, I get it, but take the Mad Catz version if such thing exists. It's probably gonna.
It's never as good.
It's
never as good. Like, I've played many Mad Catz or insert controller brand name XYZ.
We're talking
Xbox controllers over the years.
We're talking about console covers, though. We're not talking about controls.
I'd want the official. Yeah. I'd pony up to 84 to get that Starlight Blue, but. Listeners, maybe we'll chuck a poll up. We'll see who leans more towards Nova Pink, Galactic Purple, Starlight Blue, or maybe we'll put an other. And, you reference the color or the shade you'd prefer for your PlayStation 5.
Do you agree, though, like black and that PS1 grey would be the big sellers?
Oh, totally. And it just means it's going to work with like your decor will be able to work in with that nicely or nicer compared to Nova Pink.
Wood grain vinyl.
That's it.
80s style.
All right, the next bit of news I've titled as "Oh Snap," and with the title that's probably pretty triggering for everyone in the MCU, Marvel has announced a brand new collectible card game, or CCG, for mobiles and PC known as Marvel Snap. Dubbed the fastest CCG in the multiverse, Marvel Snap aims to inject a ton of speed into the card game genre by layering both players' turns on top of each other so that they occur at the same time. The team at developer Second Dinner, which is made up of CCG veterans, including some that have worked on Hearthstone, say that a full game of Marvel Snap only takes around 3 minutes to play. When it comes to deck building, Marvel Snap also makes the unconventional move of only allowing 12 total cards in a deck, with every card being unique. In the announcements video, it is explained that this is in response to the fact that a lot of competitive CCG decks are actually made up of very few unique cards in comparison to their total card count. A release date is yet to be confirmed, but you can sign up to be part of the Android closed beta, which I have done already this morning. But I also wanted to shout out to Ben Brode. I think that's how you pronounce his surname. He is the CDO behind this game. And my God, he brings the big energy in this 6-minute video where they're talking about the game itself, how it's played, why they're doing certain things. It's a great video. I'm a casual CCGer, if you want to call it that, if that's the verbiage you use. But this game, I saw it and I'm like, okay, I'm going to add this to my rotation. Like, if I can smash out games within 3 minutes, they've completely removed the whole pay for power, as it's known as, where you can buy and sort of stack your decks by dropping cash. You can unlock, I think there's 150 cards available that'll be available at time of full release, and you can unlock all of those just during your gameplay experience. But it looks super slick, and it's very Marvel. Like, it's got all the mainline characters and then some of the more niche favorites that they've displayed and showcased in this 6-minute video. But JP, excuse me, have you watched this and are you keen? Are you going to jump in and play this on your iPhone?
No.
Okay. The wind is out of my sails.
Yeah, no, just not a mobile gaming person. Like, I spend enough time on my phone without games being on there, so I don't really look at it as a gaming device. And this type of thing has never really been for me. Is this the new WWE Supercard for Brendan that's going to spend way too much money on? Yeah.
Well, this could be the new WWE Supercard where I don't spend a cent on it, because the fact that, like, I can have these battles where they're 3 minutes of play, and I like that mechanic. I was watching it sort of showcased in this video where you're stacking cards and watching the abilities and their buffs and nerfs interchange with your competitors playing was really cool. And then they tie in the snap wordplay, where when you're feeling like you're confident you're going to win this match, you can press sort of this, you can initiate the snap, which if you win, it's going to double the points you score at the end. So then it puts pressure on the person you're playing against, where they can just go, you know what, yep, that's too much for me, and they can sort of retreat, in air quotes, and sort of yield the game. So there is sort of this push-pull mechanic where you can be a little bit brazen and sort of be like, nah, I got this. I'm putting all the points on the line here, double or nothing almost styles, to try and win your way through. But yeah, this could replace WWE Supercard and be my snap game, if we wanted to reference the old gaming while on the toilet again. So it sells itself for me.
Yeah, those were the glory years of THG for sure, getting the weekly updates on how much money Brendan spent on Supercard. Yeah.
Have not spent a cent, JP, I reckon, in about 12 months.
Wow.
So, yeah,
they had a good, 4-year run out of you?
had a long run and probably wasted a sum that I will never completely disclose, but no, it was more than $10, that's for sure.
I wonder if you'd be considered a whale, technically.
Probably. At certain, like, fleeting moments. It wasn't like constant whale sightings. It was more so like that Moby Dick, where you hear about it, you see it once in a lifetime, and you get that financial blubber, and away you go again. But Marvel Snap, I'm in.
I wonder how that works. Like, do they have you on a specific mailing list, and they target you with, like, here's like the new update for Supercard, because they know that you've spent X amount of dollars?
Well, I actually, I don't know if I said it on the podcast or I actually got like, they made me like I guess you'd call it like a supercard partner where with every new release, they'll send me like a free pack with one of the latest and greatest cards and stuff. So, hence the reason why I didn't need to drop any money.
Okay. Because
I knew with every new season, I'd get a heap of in-game credits and currency and some card packs to build out my deck. So yeah, I've avoided that need to throw down my credit card details and buy in because I know with every season they're going to sling me some stuff my way for being a loyal user / whale, I guess you could say.
Well, that's good. At least they're not completely taking advantage of people. That's great.
No, only part of the time.
Bit, yeah, they just get you addicted. That's all.
That's it. But yeah, I'm keen to play Marvel Snap. It looks clean. The graphics, it looks really slick. I like the character animations on the cards, and they've sort of got this 3D depth of field on the cards as they're playing. Like, it's super polished looking. And yeah, there's a beta for Android users at the moment. Nothing confirmed at time of recording for iOS. But it's a pretty simple sign-up process to pre-register for the beta, so check it out. And then, yeah, you'll also be able to play on PC, JP, if you don't want to play on your smartphone. So it won't be too labor-intensive, so anyone that's got maybe like a smaller laptop or something, you'd be able to run this thing easily on the go.
Boom.
All right, the last bit of news we're going to be covering off on here, I've called it just Return of the Strand. And Norman Reedus has seemingly confirmed a sequel to Death Stranding is in development. So there was a new interview with Leo, where Reedus, the actor behind lead role Sam Porter Bridges, discussed Death Stranding and said simply, "We just started the second one," end quote. He followed up by explaining how his role also came about. Guillermo del Toro, who gave me my first movie, called me up and said, "Hey, there's a guy named Hideo Kojima. He's going to call you. Just say yes." And I go, "What do you mean, just say yes?" And then he goes, "Stop being an asshole, just say yes." Then I was in San Diego and Hideo came up with a big group of people. He's from Tokyo, and he showed me what he was working on a game called Silent Hill. I was blown away by what he was showing me, and I was like, yes, let's do this. It's not Miss Pac-Man. It's so realistic. It's so futuristic. It's so complicated and beautiful, and I was completely blown away. It took me maybe 2 or 3 years to finish all the mocap sessions and everything. It took a lot of work, and then the game came out, and it just won all these awards, and it was a huge thing. So we just started part 2 of that. Death Stranding, originally released on PlayStation 4 in 2019, was a divisive game. Its PlayStation 5 Director's Cut released last year, followed by a PC version earlier this year. So JP, are you excited? Like, I thought Death Stranding was fine. I didn't sort of drink all the Kojima Kool-Aid and think it was the greatest thing in gaming reimagined and all these other bylines that are doing the rounds. But yeah, I thought it was cool, and it did some things very differently and was very interesting and unique in its own Kojima way. But are you excited for more Death Stranding and Sam Porter Bridges action?
Yeah, definitely. I think that Death Stranding's a game that I appreciate more as time passes, because no one's really done anything like it before or since, and it's been 3 years now. So yeah, I mean, the fact that Kojima's doing another one, the fact that it's announced in this way is so strange, because like, you'd think surely Norman Reedus would be familiar with, I guess, the typical, what's it called, like NDA, non-disclosure,
yeah,
and would know not to talk about something that hasn't been announced. But I guess it's a bit different in Hollywood, because everyone knows what everyone's working on, and it just doesn't. It's just not as secretive, I guess, over there. So maybe that's a bit of a difference between the two industries. But yeah, I mean, he should know that it hasn't been announced and that he's doing
I think
that.
It was a bit of a slip. Like, I think this just sort of came out during this interview process with Leo. Who, like, yeah. I never heard of this Leo Media Hub until today, so I don't know how big they are and how big their readership and listenership and viewership is. But yeah, for it just to sort of trickle out so casually, as you said, where, yeah, usually these actors and performers are under lock and key with these very, very scary NDAs, for this thing just to sort of trickle out in this little interview that Mr. Reedus is doing here. It's funny. It humors me greatly that it sort of bled out the way it did. But now that momentum is going, the hype train can leave the station, and we'll see what kind of kooky greatness Hideo is going to bring to console, and no doubt inevitable maybe with a side-by-side PC release on this one too in the coming years. But I'm keen to see what they do with a follow-up to the 2019 original.
Yeah, I think like the fact that Kojima didn't leak it himself is the surprise, because he's pretty fast and loose with the tweets sometimes about, things that he's working on or what he's interested in or whatever it is. So that's surprising. Or that, that we didn't see a photo of Reedus in a mocap suit or something, and that was the way it leaked. I wonder if it was meant to be off the record and they just printed it anyway. Who knows?
That's my thought. That's my thought. Like, maybe he said that and then maybe backtracked and sort of said, Can we scratch this from the interview? And the writer or interviewer Lewis were like, yeah, no worries. And then he's like, psych, had my fingers crossed behind my back, and here it is now in this written piece. Yeah. So yeah. I reckon you're right on that one.
I think like it's a pretty it was kind of under the radar news story because it hasn't been reported super widely. And this is not just big because it's another Death Stranding, but it's big because it means that that's what Kojima's doing next. It's not some other Xbox exclusive that was rumored, or it's not something to do with what is it, Abandoned, or what was that? That's
Abandoned, which is Is Hideo attached to this?
Exactly,
is he not?
Exactly.
And, oh my god, that's still. I still don't believe that game exists or that studio is real. Like, I feel that's the biggest ruse in gaming right now. But I'm excited to watch that unfold more anyway.
Yeah. Either way, I guess it's possible a game could release before Death Stranding 2, or maybe the Microsoft thing is after Death Stranding 2. But I'm pretty sure
this could make its way to both Xbox and PlayStation.
Yeah. I suppose I'm not sure who owns it. Like, I know, like, for example, Bloodborne's a game that From Software made, but Sony owns the IP. And you'd have to think that Kojima would maintain the rights to the IP for Death Stranding, but I don't know. I feel like PlayStation has some kind of control over it, so...
Yeah, like they'd have the first one definitely under lock and key, but maybe part of the agreement to do a sequel was that...
Yeah.
Number one would then be released potentially on Xbox down the line. Obviously, we just saw it on PC rollout this year.
Yeah, that happens.
And PlayStation is sort of implying that there's going to be more day one releases of their IP on PC as far as console release same day as well. But yeah, having it on Xbox is a big thing because Kojima is synonymous with PlayStation. So that would be a big feather ruffler. But yeah, there's been no further word of if this discussion and partnership with Xbox is going to amount to anything, or maybe if it just fell over in a heap and Death Stranding 2's his sole focus for now. But we'll hear more in the coming year. Maybe, as is tradition with Game Fest, maybe we're going to see Keeley up there with his best friend Kojima officially announce Death Stranding 2 as part of one of their big reveals for Game Fest in June.
Yeah, it's possible. It's something that I'm very curious about because Death Stranding was made really quickly with I feel like a smaller team because it was in the wake of Kojima leaving Konami. So to have seen a bit of proof of concept now with the Death Stranding universe, to have seen like there's obviously a bit of an audience for it, whether he gets additional resources to build more of a deeper open world, I should say. I was going to like a less empty open world. Maybe it's before the world gets to the point that maybe it's a prequel, like it's before it gets to the point that it's at.
Maybe
in Death Stranding, because there's a lot of lore in that story, and I'm not sure where it would necessarily go after Death Stranding. But yeah, I'm very curious, as with anything that this man does. Hideo has me by the, he's got its hooks in me.
He's just a lightning rod, isn't he? Like, anytime you see his name attached to anything or mentioned in the same conversation, like, you're still seeing all this stuff with the upcoming Silent Hill games that Bloober Team are handling, and that's very much radio silent at the moment. Then there's still the rumor churn that Hideo somehow almost advising or working in partnership with Bloober regarding Silent Hill and stuff. So he's one of the larger than life titans in the gaming industry and will continue to be so, long after he's gone. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens, and just love that this casually rolls out with an interview with an outlet that I didn't know until today called Leo. And like, it's funny, like looking at their main sort of header on their website, it's style, culture, travel, lifestyle, food, gear, and dadhood is what they cover. So they're not even like a gamer or tech-centric outlet, and yet they've got one of probably the biggest soft exclusives of the year as far as Death Stranding 2's on the way.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that brings us to the end of the news. But JP, if you don't want to wait until probably 2027 when Death Stranding Part 2 might drop, I got you covered.
All right.
New releases and events.
As far as new TV or new small screen-based content debuting this coming week, we're talking between May 23 through to 29. We've got some big ones. The first one, we've got Louis Theroux shooting Joe Exotic, making his way to Stan here for those AU viewers. Obi-Wan Kenobi debuting out of nowhere. Even though we knew it was coming up, I forgot that it was this soon. But it is debuting this coming week on Disney+. And we're also getting Stranger Things Season 4 making its way to Netflix.
That's the one for me that's come out of nowhere, because...
Stranger Things?
Yeah. I mean, I know that there's been press about it, but it's been so long that I just kind of put it out of my mind that it was ever going to come out, and now I'm hyped.
It's crazy, and I don't know if you've seen some of the leaks as far as episodic runtimes. So some of the episodes that they're releasing with this season 4, it's coming out in 2 parts. Like there's the one dropping at the end of May, and then the second half of season 4 dropping in July.
Okay.
But they announced for season 4, episode 9 in season 4 goes for 2.5 hours.
Okay, I'm down for it.
Yeah.
I love Stranger Things, and it's been so long that they surely had to pivot from their original idea for season 4, if there was one. So, really curious to see how they address the way that season 3 ended, which was
the trailers have me hyped. I can't wait for it, and I loved where they went with season 3, and the direction where they could go with season 4 in the trailers looks awesome. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what the old Duffer brothers have been up to. But as far as movies coming out this week too, a couple other big ones. Top Gun Maverick finally makes its way to the big screens after literally 2+ years of delays due to COVID. They've finally decided to be cleared for takeoff and making their way to the screens this Thursday. We've got Bob's Burgers, the movie, making its way to big screens, as well as Hatchling, which is a bit more of an art housey looking horror that looks all kinds of creepy and kooky. But I'm hyped to check out Top Gun Maverick. Are you gonna watch and see what Maverick and Iceman have been up to these last couple of decades?
It's been 3+ decades, hasn't it?
It's bananas.
No, I've actually never watched Top Gun start to finish. So that's one of those 80s flicks that I've bypassed. As you know, I've been catching up on my Aliens and my Predators and whatnot. But the Top Gun still hasn't grabbed me. But maybe if everyone's all over this one, I'll have to go back and check it out finally.
Check it out, definitely. And a nice little connector there to when you mentioned Predators, the trailer, or the first announcement trailer for Prey, which is the new Predator movie coming out in August. It's going to be debuting straight to Hulu, so it's not going to be on the big screen here for us in AU. It'll be through one of the other streamers. I think it's August the 5th, if I can remember correctly. But this is going way back, and this movie is going to be set in like the 1800s and pitting like Comanche Indians against Predator, and it looks super gritty and atmospheric, and I'm excited for this. So check that trailer out if you can. It's only 50 seconds or so, but it hits on that initial vibe and feeling and atmosphere from Predator 1 back in 86. So we got those. As far as games coming out this coming week, there is quite a few. We've got Floppy Nights, which is a card RPG. Streets of Rage 4 make its way on the 24th. Obviously, action slash beat 'em up there. Toucan Ranbu Warriors, which is an action game. Turnip Boy commits tax evasion, which is an action adventure game. I'm intrigued by what Turnip Boy gets up to there to avoid those payments of tax to the government, but is what it is. We've got an adventure point and click called Voodoo Detective, a shooter called Catalyst Black, action slash sports game called Roller Champions, and that's a free-to-play game. It's a Ubisoft original. Hellslave, which is a dungeon crawler slash RPG, a racing sci-fi title known as Redout 2, Sniper Elite 5, making its way to console and PC as well. T3 Arena, which is a shooter action platformer called Moo Lander. We've also got an adventure game from the My Little Pony universe called A Maritime Bay Adventure, and that's wordplay with Maretime. Pac-Man Museum Plus. We've also got a shoot 'em up slash broader. We've got a shooter called Remote Life, an RPG slash roguelike called Unexplored 2, The Wayfarer's Legacy as well. So we've got over a dozen games making its way to a whole host of platforms. A ton of content there to sink your teeth into. I'm intrigued and interested by Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion.
Great name.
And if it's not some absurdly priced game, I'm gonna download it and give it a spin. Apparently, it only takes 3 hours to finish the main story. It's done by Snoozy Kazoo is the developers, and it's making its way to Switch, PC, and mobile. So let's see what's going on there and see just how a turnip can avoid paying its taxes.
Yeah, I'll give my highlight gold star to Voodoo Detective, which Benny 8-Bit highlighted to me in the Discord, the 8-Bit Discord this week as a point-and-click adventure. It looks pretty quirky and fun. I don't know if I will necessarily pick it up, but if it was on Game Pass, I would definitely check it out and keep an eye on it for a sale, perhaps. If it's
got some Monkey Island vibes to it as far as the aesthetic.
I think that's why Benny showed me, because it does have a bit of quirky kind of humor. It's hard to tell from the trailer if it's good. That's the only reason that I hesitate. So if it does review really well, then it is something that I would potentially spend some money on. So
yeah, and you can play that on PC or smartphone as well. So if it's on smartphone, you'd envision that it's not going to be very expensive.
No, is that it? Is it just PC and smartphone?
Apparently,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm not going to play it.
Redacted.
Until it comes to consoles, which it will, I'm sure. Why would you...
Maybe I'll have a look at that too.
Why would you make something and not put it on consoles? Come on. Anyway.
I don't know.
I
don't know. All right, JP, let's move into the final part of the podcast, which I believe you're chairing today.
Tweet of the week.
Indeed. We have a 3-parter here, so bear with me. But Jeff Keighley, our friend who was name-dropped just on this very podcast, tweeted out this morning, Electronic Arts was set to merge with NBC Universal. 4 sources with knowledge of the proposal told at Puck News, but the deal fell apart last month. So this could have almost been a news item. It's pretty interesting little nugget there that we could have had a very different EA, but it says also in that story, he said in his second tweet that EA has also had talks with Disney, Apple, and Amazon. And then there's a quote tweet of this one, which is part 3 from Gene Park over at Washington Post, who does their games coverage. And he said when Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard, this was the competition and they were actually worried about outbidding them. It's happening. So the fact that EA, one of the biggest developers and publishers out there, has been in amongst it with Disney, in amongst it with Apple, Amazon, NBC, a bunch of huge companies that you wouldn't normally associate with gaming. This is interesting that they're getting into it and coming close to diving right in with one of the biggest companies out there in EA. And it also adds some intrigue behind the scenes of that Activision Blizzard acquisition. Why they overspent perhaps with the 68.7, whatever it was, the very large number.
Just a smidge under 69 nice US
$1
billion.
It was a huge number. It was a lot more than anyone thought would probably ever happen for a game developer publisher. But clearly they overpaid to fend off perhaps offers from the likes of Disney and Apple and Amazon and whoever else wants to throw their hat in the ring. So I just thought that was an interesting, not just the Jeff Keighley news, but Gene Park's little add-on there about Activision Blizzard. So yeah, what do you think?
I think it's interesting. Obviously, there's always dominoes that could fall in that game space and the next big acquisition. And EA certainly makes sense. They're primarily interested in making money. And if they can make an absolute absurd amount of money by just selling off those beloved IP or just, the EA games arm in general, it makes a lot of sense. And some of those big players that you mentioned sniffing around, like Amazon, always makes a lot of sense because they're dipping toes into the gaming well already. So if they could pick up someone like Electronic Arts and have not only a ton of current games and current IP that make an absolute crazy amount of cash, but also a very extensive back catalog, allow them to jump in and really ascend up that gaming totem pole hierarchy pretty swiftly. So it wouldn't surprise me to hear that EA has been purchased in the coming months. It sounds like if they're having discussions with all these potential investment companies already, that it could happen much sooner rather than later.
Indeed. Yep. Very well said.
I also had a chuckle. We didn't put it in the news here, but I also had a chuckle regarding Square Enix having their earnings report pop out this week, and obviously they've sold off their Western studios to Embracer, and then they've also said part of their strategy moving forward is to create more studios. So it's like, why didn't you just build up the ones you just had that you sold off for 2 cents on the dollar instead of now trying to rebuild from the ground up? Anyway,
maybe they want to keep it Japanese.
Maybe, but made me chuckle. Obviously, I'm not on their board. I am just a humble fan, but it just made me chuckle that was the thought process or lack thereof, in my not so humble opinion there, with Square doing some funny things. But yeah, 8-Bit Nation, that brings us to the end of THG 284. JP, thank you for jumping on in here and filling in while Miss Ali Hart recovers from the dreaded loogie. It's running rampant all around the world at the moment. Now we've got some type of monkey strain breaking into Australia and into Victoria here. Like, nothing is safe. It is a crazy mixed up world out there.
I know. I had a pretty sick week as well. I'm still recovering, as people can probably tell, and you seem a little less than your usual self, but we've stuck through it, and I think hopefully people don't miss Ali too much, though I'm sure they'll be very happy to have her back next week, feeling much better.
That's it. And anyone else out there, obviously, this cold snap is running right way across Australia. So rug up, get your flu shots if you can, and make sure you get that vitamin D, however you consume it, and vitamin C as well. Drink all the orange juice because we're all going to be off crook over the coming weeks and months, I'd imagine. But yeah, 8-Bit Nation, thanks as always for stopping on by. If you can rate, review, subscribe us on your podcast player of choice, as well as all the other podcasts you listen to on the regular, that would mean the world to us. And if obviously you're doing that on Spotify, be sure to screenshot that rating, drop it to us on the socials at We're8bit, or email us at hello@8bit.net to go in the draw to win yourself a fantastic brand new gaming headset and some other kit from Audio-Technica and 8-Bit. But this has been episode 284. Follow myself at Brendan 8-Bit. Follow Miss Ali Hart at Miss Ali Hart, and follow Australia's Jono Pech at Jono himself. But until next time, 8-Bit Nation, when we come at you for episode 285, much love.
And stay hungry.
You've been listening to The Hungry Gamers, one of many gaming and geek culture related podcasts from the 8-Bit Collective over on 8bit.net. Check out more episodes on your podcast service of choice. And while you're there, please be sure to rate and subscribe. Until next time, boys and girls, stay hungry.